his first career ejection. He was arguing over a check swing. So
He's been struggling, so that it always spills over. That's the kind of guys that get tossed when they're really pressing. Like, wow.
fighting at that Mendoza line there. So
Do they get fined when they get tossed?
I believe so. Yeah, I think.
I mean, they don't have to sit out a game or anything like that.
I
But
think
they must get there must be a standard set fine when you get
when a manager
ejected.
gets ejected, he is suspended 1 game. Usually, that's the protocol there. But when they do get ejected,
Well, especially when they were throwing at each other and stuff like that.
I believe it's probably 3,000, 5,000. I don't know exact number there, but there is a fine with being ejected itself.
Yeah. Well, somebody out there wants to look it up and really dazzle us, give us a call, 717-334-3000.
I'll do my research for next week.
All right,
and,
okay.
do my number association with the suspension and what they get fined for ejected there. But positivity there.
Yeah. Shining Star, well, I'm Philly-centric. I'm going with Zach Wheeler. He was just dominant last night. I think he went 7 full, 10 strikeouts, 0 walks. His ERAs, Phillies right now have great starting pitching with the left-handers, Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez they both have these great change-ups, and they're almost unhittable. I don't want to jinx them. And then you have Wheeler, so what a great 1, 2, 3. And then Luzardo's been hot and cold. He had the one bad stretch where he gave up 20 runs in 2 games.
I think he was on the hot seat a couple weeks ago there. So,
Yeah, well, I was psychologically trying to turn the season around. At least for 1 or 2 starts I did. So let's hope he stays on the right track. Mitch Abel, the rookie, he finally got a loss, but he's been overachieving. And then Aaron Nola could be coming back. So the starting pitching is looking good for the Phillies. They're getting Bryce Harper back. But the bullpen, and you can address who you think has the trade needs and what our favorite teams need most. And I'll say that the Phillies need a closer. But go ahead, Orioles, what's their greatest need?
Well,
where do you begin?
Well, the reason why I kind of hesitate with that is, are they going to be buyers, sellers, or just status quo?
Well, yeah, we were talking before, like they're now within 7 of the last wild card.
Yeah, they shaved off 2.5 games from where they were on June 1st to where they're at right now on July 1st. So, you're 7 games back from that third wild card spot, but you guys start jumping. They got to jump 6 teams to get that third wild card spot. So,
yeah, but there's time to do it.
Yeah,
crazier things have happened when you have
still 80
70 games or whatever.
We're past the 80. We're past the halfway mark there. So
70-some games.
75, 77. So
sure.
What they need is to string some wins in a row. They got to get 5, 6, 7 game winning streak. See what happens. If I say the magic number for them is try to get to 84 wins. 84 will probably get you in.
Trade deadline is what, July 31? So we have
July 30th.
Okay.
Or 29th there. So right at the end of the month.
4 weeks until the trade deadline.
See where they're at. But
so so go ahead. Orioles, what do you see them doing? I mean, you're saying it depends, but what would you like to see them do?
I think they'll probably end up being sellers. I think it's going to be one of those.
Who goes?
Well, that's the thing where maybe Ryan O'Hearn. I would like to see.
Is he going to be their all-star?
Yeah, I think he might win the DH. We'll get to that in a bit there with the voting there, but I think he will probably make the All-Star game. And probably Jackson Holiday. But you look at some of the pieces. Some of them are hurt, so you're not going to trade. Zach Eflin. He's on the IL. Maybe Tamayuki Sagano. He's been kind of struggling a little bit there.
How old is he?
35-year-old rookie. So.
You sure he's not 45?
Well, sometimes it looks like it there, but
okay.
So
I'm
you
sorry.
look at some.
I've never seen him. That was unfair.
But some of the pieces out there is they're either struggling, or they're hurt. So you can't really trade that, and you're not going to get too much in return.
Right, exactly.
So I think to answer your question, I think they're going to just be probably just stay as they are right now.
Unless they get super hot in the next 10 games, win 8 out of 10 or something like that, and then they get these delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, but I think they'll probably, sell some of their players and kind of go from there. But it's really all going to depend on what they do in the month of July and, and these 11 games before the break itself there, because, right now they still sit 10 games under 500, and I always say, you got to be near 500 baseball to be even in that conversation of playoffs and all that there. So, see what happens there. But
Phillies were rained out tonight. We can bring that information to you. It was only been in the last hour or so that they made that decision. They're going to play a day-night doubleheader tomorrow against the Padres.
My shining star, I'm going to go with Wilyer Abreu from the Red Sox. And he is the 6th player in history to hit a grand slam and an inside the park home run in the same game. The last to do so was in 1958 by a gentleman from the Yankees, Roger Morris. You might know of that name there, but yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You could get a grand slam and an inside the park home run on the same at bat.
Yeah.
Is that, did they have to be two separate events? Two separate home
yeah.
runs?
I mean, from the other 5.
Unless you have two inside the park home runs, one with the bases loaded. Okay, all right. We're all
So-
about accuracy.
Yeah, so seeing that, the last time that was done was 1958, and just remarkable.
Who?
Roger Morris. Roger Maris.
Roger Maris of the
Yes,
Yankees.
yes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, you said Morse.
Yeah, I
61.
yes.
All right. So Willard Abreu, Zach Wheeler, congratulations. You are on the Shining Stars list.
So now,
Hottest seat in sports. Why don't I start?
I'll
Just
let you go first.
okay. So I'm going to say MLB GMs for all the reasons they could lose their jobs based on what they do in the next 30 days.
Absolutely.
And then she's hurt. She's been hurt. She carries the weight of the whole league on her shoulders. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA. I mean, a lot of the success of the league is due to her. And now the WNBA is adding 3 new teams, Detroit, Cleveland, and Philly in the next few years. I think Portland has an expansion franchise coming up. So the WNBA really taking off. And just watching Caitlin Clark, I've heard the people say, oh, Larry Bird. No. To me, she's Maravich. Like letting him fly from the logo, have incredible bounce passes, just having that court vision. You watch the old footage of Pete Maravich, and he didn't have a 3-point line.
No.
I mean, I think people have figured out how many points he would have had if there had been a 3-point line at that time. So died young, and NBA, he got hurt, and I mean, at that level, he still had all world skills, but for whatever reason, he didn't dominate like he did in college. Anyway, Caitlin Clark, just because she has a lot of expectations, that kind of heat. So who you got?
I'm going to go, sticking with baseball, I'm going to go with the Guardians. They went 9-15 in the month of June, and their team batting average was 3rd worst in their history with at least 13 games. Their average was, as a team, 203, and they're currently on a 4-game losing streak. So I think it was, last week I said the Royals, or 2 weeks ago I said Kansas City, so I'm sticking with the AL Central with the Guardians. And, that's, just kind of looking at the state of the AL wildcard race. There's not a lot of teams that are kind of on that winning side. You have,
I mean, the Red Sox have a chance of getting in there, and they're flirting with 500.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the last 10 games, Seattle is 6-4, and there's nobody else with a winning record. You know, the Angels 5-5, Red Sox 3-7, Guardians 3-7, Rangers 5-5, Twins 3-8 or
Yeah.
3-7, Royals 2-8, and the Orioles 5-5. So
See, that's what gives you a little hope, because all these teams are in a funk. So, I mean, that's how you can pass 5 or 6 teams.
and that's why I look at this like, you know, where the Orioles are at 7 games. Can they jump Kansas City? Can they jump Minnesota? I say
There
they
could be,
can.
yeah, I mean, there could be a team with a losing record get into playoffs. I don't know when the last time that happened.
Well, since we had the third
It's a good
wild
trivia
card,
question, yeah. I don't know if it's happened since we had the third wild card.
I think we kind of flirted with it a couple times there, but
Yeah,
you know, it's just all going to depend on, you know, how Seattle plays. You know, they're 4 games over 500, and currently
they
the
got this all-world catcher, Cal Raleigh,
Raleigh, you know,
MVP candidate,
in the
him or
home run
Judge
derby.
right now. Yeah,
I don't see anyone else in the American League that's going to go toe to toe with either of them.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's Aaron Judge, unless he gets injured or whatever happens if he goes on a crazy funk.
yeah.
But, you know, Cal Raleigh, you know, just the way that he's been playing, you know, having 30-plus home runs as a switch-hitting catcher, playing basically every day.
I'm not sure it's ever been done before, to this level of excellence. But, yeah, it'll be interesting. Does he have a right-handed pitcher and a left-handed pitcher? And, I mean, they're not throwing curveballs, you wouldn't think, but, or does he just have one guy grooving it and he's gonna bat, if it's a righty, he's just gonna bat left-handed the whole time? Maybe that would be an advantage to be able to switch. I don't know, has any switch hitter ever won the home run derby?
Well, the last time we saw, you know, a hitter, you know, go
Was
left
Rutschman
and right
in home
was
run derby?
Rutschman. Yeah,
Okay.
that was, you know, when they were in Seattle. So this year, the home run derby is in Atlanta. We only have 2 participants that have said that they're going to put their hat in the ring, and that is Acuna and
Hopefully he'll get
Cal
home
Raleigh.
runners. And who?
Cal Raleigh. That's
Oh,
the only
yeah.
2
That's
that
one
have.
again. Well, yeah, it's not, it'll be a short television event, go right to the final.
Yeah, I think once we get, you know, closer to the date there, you know, the derby itself is on the.
They got, yeah, I mean, they must have to
15th.
pay you some serious money, because there are a lot of reasons not to do that. Number one, it can really mess you up
Yep.
when you start trying to hit home runs. I've seen it. Bobby Abreu from the Phillies, he won it one year, and
Was that the 2006 when they were doing like the nation home run derby?
maybe. He's from Venezuela, but anyway, then the rest of the season he stank. He was trying to hit a home run every time.
We have
Home run.
seen that numerous times
Yeah.
throughout the seasons where, you know, people think, oh, well, I'm just going to do the home run swings and all that there, and just kind of, you know.
Yeah, well,
changes there.
hopefully your batting practice pitcher is grooving them for you, which in real games, that's not what happens, so.
No. So yeah, that was the hot seat there, just with the Guardians, and you know, we could put some more throughout the show there, but that's what I thought about right now. But you know, just kind of.
Yeah, NBA draft, we talked about that last show. Not really didn't seem like a whole lot of surprises, at least in the early going. 2 Dukies go 1-4, I think. Knopple.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of, I mean, who does he remind you of? Maybe like a John Havlicek or, I don't know, like a smart guy that can go in, a smart scorer.
The guy that can go inside, outside a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
there. I don't really have a name off the top of my head there.
Okay.
You kind of put me on the spot.
I
there,
know I
but
did,
yeah.
I know I did, but that's okay.
What'd you think about the 76ers pick there? You
Well, they got VJ Edgecombe.
know, Edgecombe there, yes, from Baylor.
And then Johnny Broom from Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
He's a rugged guy. He could really help them.
Yeah, that,
Second round pick.
you know, scrappy player
But
there. So.
everything I read, Edgecombe, he's from the Bahamas. Needs to work on some things, but a lot of natural athleticism. So pair him and Tyrese Maxey, and you got this kid McCain coming back from Duke, who was really having a great season, and then he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So Embiid is supposedly going to be ready. He needed plenty of time off. Probably the worst thing he did was playing the Olympics
I would agree.
because he didn't get a break and he needed one. But anyway, so okay, hottest seat in sports. No reason to really take the Mets out of there, but I don't want to.
I thought about, throwing the Mets on there,
Well, I mean, how about the Pirates? They swept the Mets and they
and just
outscored
the
them
way they did it too. I mean,
24 to
24
5
to
or-
6, or
yeah.
just absurd.
Manhandled.
Yes,
They were manhandling the Mets.
and that puts the Pirates at 36-50. Another team that's kind of cruising right now is Miami Marlins. They're 37-45. They're on a 7-game winning streak. So a little kudos to the fish out
So
there.
they actually have a better record than the Orioles right now.
So right now
Close.
37-45 is the Marlins, and the O's are 37-47, a winning percentage of .440, and
One
it's
game
just
lead. Yeah, so the Rockies have won a few games, but they're still lagging the field by a good margin. The Nats are an interesting team, and this guy, James Wood, got walked intentionally 4 times. He's an emerging star.
yeah, that's a player I would like to see in the home run derby. Just the way, how big he is, and just the easy swings. I think he will.
For all the reasons we mentioned, you might not see him, right? They don't want him
That's-
to
yeah.
develop homeritis. He's a great natural talent. Part of the Soto trade, right?
C.J. Abrams is having a good season as well.
Yeah,
So
he was part of that trade. So Abrams had a behavior incident last year, but he seems to put that in the rearview
he's
mirror.
right on par.
The Nats, and they have some decent starting pitching. I guess, how many games under 500 are they?
They are 14. They're 35-49 there. So
Where are the Braves?
the Braves are 38-45, 11 games back from the Phillies there.
Say it again.
The Phillies, first place right now in the NL East. So
By 2 games?
2 games, because the Mets, what we're saying, they got swept by the Pirates, and
Yeah.
you look at
Who
that.
do the Mets have?
Coming up right now, the Mets are playing. Let me see here. They got the Brewers. They got
Who's been playing really well? The Brewers have
yeah.
been
They've
playing
been
well.
kind of
lately.
like this up and down a little bit
Yeah,
there.
that Central, you have 4 teams, at least 4 games over 500?
Yeah, looking at the NL Central, other than the Pirates, being at the bottom of the division.
At the bottom of the
14.
sea, Davy
Yeah.
Jones' locker.
So you got the Cubs 49-35 playing some really good baseball, especially with PCA, having a phenomenal season. The Brewers 47-37, 2 games back, and the Cardinals 3 games back. The Reds, that was the team where I thought was going to be that team is going to win that division. They're 44-41.
3
know,
games over. Okay.
5.5 games back from first there. It's just going to all depend on, when they get, Hunter Green back. That has, kind of derailed them. They had, Bryce Burns pitch yesterday. He only pitched 1/3 of an inning. He just, some people were saying he was tipping his pitches, and, the Red Sox knew what was coming in, and,
Well, we talked about Luzardo and that bad stretch, and
Yep.
that's supposedly what he was doing, and with all the sophisticated video equipment, he was able to go back and say, hey, yeah, I can see how the batter was picking up on that. I got to make an adjustment. So we'll see. Hey, before we forget, let's recognize our current banner sponsors. For a couple dollars a day, you can be a banner sponsor, and you will have your name mentioned on our live programming. You'll be in the closing credits, and lots of other rights and privileges that come with your status as a banner sponsor. So currently, our banner sponsors are as follows: Adams County Community Foundation, Adams County Sports Hall of Fame, Destination Gettysburg, Classic Antique Innovations, and Claire Lohman Realtor. So thank you, one and all, for your support. What's on your agenda, young man?
Well, all sorts there with the baseball. One, going to the NL West, the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw is pitching tomorrow, and he's been pitching very well of late there. He won 4 of his last 4 outings there. He's 3 strikeouts away from 3,000, and he will be the 20th member to eclipse 3,000 strikeouts.
What a career,
the
all
only-
in Dodger blue.
Only 2 active pitchers to eclipse that is Verlander and Scherzer is the only.
And has Scherzer pitched at the major league level this year?
He pitched the other day
How'd he do?
against the Yankee. He pitched yesterday actually. He went 4 2/3, gave up a couple runs. It's just one of those up and coming outings there, and see where he goes
Yeah.
from there. I
And
mean,
Verlander's had a bunch of no decisions. He can't seem to get a victory.
yeah, he's on again and off again on the IL, with the Giants there. So, see where he goes. But, these aren't spring chickens anymore. So, see where it goes.
Well, back to the banner ad, Sean just handed me some information here. Not only are you recognizing weekly programming, as we indicated, you can access individually customized social media shout-outs highlighted in digital quarterly newsletter read by hundreds of subscribers. And you and your favorite community event can be featured in a studio-produced recording for local television and social media. So, you'll be a collaborative partner with community media. So think about being a banner sponsor if you're out there watching.
Sounds amazing. Just having that, exposure, with, when we're doing events and all that.
Yeah, and it's all programming. So I guess we'll be recognizing when we do Game of the Week in a month or so. Yeah, about, 6 weeks till the first game? I'll be
6,
back
7 or something like
From
that.
across
there,
the pond, so, yeah, so, anyway, great job, the banner sponsors, we really appreciate you. Where do we go from here?
I guess we can add another shining star. I'm looking at the Yankees Blue Jay game right now, and George Springer is 3 for 4 with a grand slam, 2 home runs, and 7 RBIs for Mr. Springer today.
What's the score?
12-4 for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought he was done.
Yeah.
So he's revitalized his career here at mid-season.
Yeah, and
Because I don't think he was batting leadoff for them anymore, and,
He was having a nagging injury.
okay.
In the month of April, he wasn't doing much, and then just he's batting .270 right now and
Picking it up.
picking it up. Home runs wise, he's at 13 home runs. He has 47 RBIs. So I
Wow.
would say, a 7 RBI game. That
A lot of people would take that, so he's really been, like you said, after a slow start, he's playing like the solid veteran that he's been for
his
umpteen
caliber
years.
himself as what he was in Houston there. So
Yeah. Speaking of Houston, they're on a roll.
looking at where
Pitching, what pitching they've had.
I think it could be a dark horse. Not really a dark horse. I think he's right up there. Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown is having
yeah.
a phenomenal season.
I saw him for the first time when they beat the Phillies. They gave up 1 run in 3 games.
Looking at his starts with his quality starts, I think he only has like 3 starts where he didn't go at least 6 and, didn't give up more than 3. He's been stellar with the strikeouts and just, his pitch count goes up high, but, he gets those outs quick. So I think he's right up there with Garrett Crochet and,
Yeah.
the Tigers picture of, Tyreek and,
How about Hader as an MVP candidate? He's 23 for 23 in save opportunities.
you definitely.
Shades of Brad Lidge. I mean, where would they be without him?
I think he would be the reliever of the year
Well,
for
I mean,
sure.
it has happened over the years. You have had relief pitchers win the MVP, including the Phillies' own Jim Constanti in 1950.
Doesn't happen too often,
No,
but, you know,
it doesn't, but, okay, so, well, I guess you got Ohtani, so that's who you're competing against. It's pretty
Yeah.
tough to compete with him. Who's had, what, 3 starts, pitched a total of 4 innings?
He's
Seems like it
starting
gets a
to-
little better each time out, gets a little stretched out.
I think what they're doing, you know, with the Dodgers is trying to. This is basically his spring training. This
Yeah.
is February for him, so
Sure.
you don't want to overdo it
yeah.
with him because the plan is for him to pitch in games in September, games in October, where it means not to say that these
Yeah.
games don't mean anything, but you're building for October,
And plus, they've been decimated by injuries, their rotation, so.
left and right there.
Yeah. So you don't want to, the last thing you want to do is blow him up early and,
And that's the same thing what they're doing with Kershaw, because you're not going to have Kershaw pitch 7, 8 innings. He's
Right.
on a pitch count, so
shoot for
you know,
5,
he's pitching
6
great.
tops.
So you want to utilize what he's doing here and then add it, you know, throughout the
Yeah.
bulk of the season there. So
They're still the favorite in the National League, no doubt.
and then just the way that they're running away with that division, they're up 7.5. You know, to
Well, the Padres and Giants were hanging with them right for the first third of the season. Now they've both gone down the tubes,
yeah,
especially the Giants.
Yeah, I addressed that when we hit the 1/3 mark of the season, when every team, you know, hit that 54 games. You know, you kind of look where you're at, you know, where you're going to be at the next 108 games there. The Padres and the Giants were right with them. The D-backs were as well, but then when you lose, you know, Corbin Burns, that's going to be, you know, a big mountain to climb there. So you look at that.
Didn't the Marlins just sweep the Snakes?
Yes.
So, yeah, but, you know, it can happen. That's baseball. It
And-
does happen.
The other division that's probably going to be, you know, cruising is probably the Tigers in the
I was just
Central.
going to ask you, they are a darn good team. And will this get the stain of the scandal from their manager Hinch, from his reputation? It's been
He's-
tarnished.
He's
Can
been
he-
with the Tigers for a good amount of
Oh,
years.
like
I think
6, 7 years, I don't know.
he's been there
He sat out a
4
year.
years.
Then he sat out a year after the scandal.
At
So,
least
yeah.
4 years that I know. But, you know, you look at where A.J. Hinch was, and there was, you know, his first year, it looked like he was going to get, you know, the axe. It looked like, you know,
Yeah.
he's not going to be here. You know, even last year, it looked like they're going to miss the playoffs, and they just, you know, strung
They had a
off these
great
wins there.
finish.
So right now, they have a 11.5 game lead over the Guardians, 12.5 with the Twins, and they're the only team in that division that has a run differential in the green. They're plus 99 where everybody else is in the red.
Yeah.
So I can see them winning that division maybe on Labor Day. So
Well, that's, yeah. Rust or rest, we'll see how that all plays out. We have a caller, let's go to the phone line. Welcome to Sports Chat, hello. How's it going?
Hey boys, surprise!
that's a different voice
Hey,
there.
a pleasant surprise, how are you?
Great!
What's new?
I didn't have the opportunity to call in, like, until now.
Rachel, right?
Yeah?
Will you be playing trivia later?
Yep, always.
All right, well, we appreciate your support, and you're a Patreon also, right? So thank you for that. What sports do you like? I know you're involved with basketball, but what other sports are there that interest you?
Football, Penn State, and the Steelers.
Penn State and the Steelers. Well, you just big trade. We didn't really talk about it. Let's Corey tell you about a trade.
Yeah, so the viewers out there, the Steelers and the Dolphins had a trade yesterday. Micah Fitzpatrick is going to the Dolphins, where Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith is going to Pittsburgh. both teams are exchanging third-round draft picks in 2026. So it's, I think it's a nice move there for Pittsburgh.
I do too. I mean, that Jonnu Smith, I mean, when you look at that, even up, it would have been a trade that a lot of teams would have made, but you throw this guy tight end in who has, what, 866 yards last year or
It's
something?
great in the red zone there, and I think this is a good correlation with Pat Fairmuth with Jonnu Smith there. I think that's a good Tatum there. I think teams are going to have the two tight end sets when they're on the field there. So
Red zone, especially, and
you know,
So,
and
yeah.
this is not the first time, you know, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers is going to be with Jonnu Smith. You know, they were paired up in the Falcons and Tennessee. So this is not the first time that they're, you know, working together. And they had great chemistry, you know, as a head coach and a tight end, you know, at their respective locations there. So I like the trade there. It was kind of surprising, you know, for Monday, Tuesday, you know, seeing that unfold there. But for the Dolphins, Ramsey wanted out of Miami. He wanted to go somewhere else. He went to Pittsburgh. And the tight end now for Miami looks like it's going to be Darren Waller out of retirement and traded.
he's a good one.
Yeah, you know, Giants trade him, you know, to the Dolphins.
He's
So
taking his talents to South Beach.
see what happens. Rachel, did you like that trade, or you know, were you thrilled?
I didn't know about it until you guys just said about it.
Okay, well.
But yeah, it sounds like he'll get a good guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll ask this, Rachel, and you as well, Corey. With Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to have a lot of quarterback scampers. You don't want him running the ball. You can't pass it on every down. Is Warren the guy as the feature back, or what do they do in the running back category?
Well, I think, you know, Jalen Warren is probably, you know, the guy that's going to be the bell cow. You know, you look at the rest of the depth there for the Steelers, they don't have that
Najee
core running back
Richardson or Najee Harris? What's it?
there. You know, he went to the Chargers, you know, so he's not there.
He was a good one.
Yeah, so you look at that there, all the other teams out there, they typically would have a quarterback that will scramble. So you're not going to see that for Pittsburgh, scrambling wise. So he is a pocket quarterback that will just throw it,
Yeah.
you know, down the field.
So you mentioned a team, line play is important for everybody, but it's got to be essential for the Steelers to have any kind of success this year. They got to get their front five solid to protect Rodgers, and when the situation calls on it, knock some people down for Jalen Warren.
And, you know, this is a one and done there for Rodgers in Pittsburgh. It's just a 1 year, you know, spinoff, and Rodgers is basically going to retire after this year. So a lot of people are
He didn't say that, but he
basically
hinted at
the
it.
writing is on the wall there. You know,
Yeah.
the words are out there. So this is all in for Pittsburgh. You know, they haven't won a playoff game since 2017. That's hard to believe. It's been almost a decade since they won a playoff game. They've been to the playoffs, but, you know, trying to get over that hump there. And, you know, do they have enough pieces? It's going to be interesting to see there. You're going up against a very stock, you know, division there with, you know, the Bengals. They're going to put up points there. The Browns,
Gotta have
who
a good
knows?
start.
And the Ravens are going to be right up there. So it's going to be interesting. Any other thoughts there, Rachel, or, you know, what do you think, you know, with the Steelers going into it?
I think they just need to make their top players to go, and then like second like scatter the other players that can't do so well into the play.
Well, Rachel, you mentioned Penn State too, so we can talk about them a little bit. I mean, I think everybody expects them to be a top 5 pick for this season, don't you think? Those picks haven't come out yet, but
Yeah, we haven't seen the AP top 25 there, but I think they're going to probably be right there in the top 5, top 6, more likely.
I get
Probably
number
number 2.
2.
Oregon probably goes first, and then Penn State, and then the other one.
Well, it's gonna be an interesting season.
Penn State, I think it's gonna be a 9-3 season.
I'll write that down. 9-3, so that means they don't get a bowl game, or is that
Oh, they'll get a bowl
regular
game.
season?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to,
Regular season.
yeah, you have to have at least 6 wins to get a bowl eligible.
Yeah, I was just doing the math, but they always play 12 games, so, but they end up playing 13, because they always go to a bowl. Mm-hmm. Unless they have, when's the last time Penn State did not go to a bowl?
That will probably be the stanchions that they got during the.
Oh, yeah,
That was
Sandusky.
probably, when.
Oh,
they
yeah,
were,
apart from
bowl-
that, though, I mean, when they're bowl eligible, they usually go to a bowl. Anyway, you got starting quarterback coming back. You don't have Tyler Warren, he'll be a big loss. So it sounds like the receiving corps has gotten better with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I don't know if there's a better running back tandem in the country. They're stacked on defense. Anyway, I think the Pennsylvania teams all around have a lot of interest. The Eagles, we haven't mentioned them, but I think they're picked by a lot of people to be repeat Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, right up there with the caliber that they're bringing back in the NFC. They're going to be one of the favorites to repeat as NFC champions and, to go to the Super Bowl and all that there. There's still a lot to be played. That's just on paper. Things could change there. And
Yeah.
it's looking by their off-season, pickups. It could happen again.
Did we ever have Justin Tucker on the hottest seat in
I think
sports?
we had him a couple times there.
Yeah,
For missed kicks and his.
His
I know
off
for
the
sure.
field issues.
I know for sure last year he was on there, I think, multiple times because
Yeah.
he was, very lackluster.
Worst year ever, for
Yes.
sure. And you wonder if all this stuff going on around him didn't
Now-
affect his performance. He
Now
can
with-
always sing opera.
He and then do those Royal Farm commercials. Well, maybe.
Maybe
Um,
not.
Now he has a 10-game suspension there, so
Similar to Deshaun Watson for similar allegations.
and he had 11-game suspension there. So see what happens there with Tucker. But for starters, he's got to find a team, to
Right. Will he be immediately eligible and then for postseason as well? I mean, he could be like an X factor.
that could
Kickers get hurt occasionally, or they really go in the tank, they get the yips.
have the funk there, but
Yeah, I mean, he's got a proven track record. You bring him in and see how you work him out, obviously, see if he's still got it. But he was maybe a first or second ballot Hall of Famer. And there are only, I think, 2 place kickers in the Hall of Fame, Morton Anderson and Jan Stenerud. So
Vinatieri will.
Adam Vinatieri, I think he is in. You're right. Okay.
So-
So there are a handful.
I think
But he was on track to do that. He was the
easy,
greatest
like a
kicker
slam dunk
ever.
there, yeah.
I mean, it was a no-brainer. He made how many in a row from over 50 yards? He made it look like an extra point in the old days.
Looks so easy there.
Yeah.
So
So now there's a stain there. Like, is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know.
I think he still makes it as a Hall of Fame, but he doesn't make his case, easy now
No.
because now
Well,
you have
Pete Rose-
writers. Yeah.
You segue right into Pete Rose. The same kind of. I'm not equating them by any means, and certainly Justin Tucker is entitled to the presumption of innocence. Pete Rose had a federal tax evasion. He did jail time. So he can get in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, there's nothing stated about moral requirements, but there's Barry Bonds, for example, and all those guys, Mark McGuire.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah, I mean, there's the people that vote. It matters to the people who vote for the Hall of Fame. So it's kind of like the old definition of insanity in the 1960s. Supreme Court said, well, we don't know how to define it, but we know it when we see it. So same kind of thing. You
couldn't say it better myself.
Right. So anyway, Rachel, what else is on your mind? Thanks so much for calling. We haven't talked to you in a while. Oh, you're
she's
gone?
gone, yeah.
Well, hopefully she's still watching, Rachel. Thank you for being a great viewer, a Patreon, and we really appreciate your support. We have a couple minutes left. golf, racing, race car driving,
Well,
boxing, what else we wanna
We can
cover?
talk about the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. on
Joey's
Friday.
back?
Joey is back, so everything's all right in the world. And
Still
we
have
got-
the dipping in water
yeah, they
method?
dip it in water and they go at it.
So-
The buns and the dogs and all that there.
I mean, there was some real sports on when that was on. I saw it was on. I saw that Joey Chestnut was back in the hunt. It's multiple competitions, so they have other food products that they
They
eat?
got the lemonade. They got they have the men and the women competitions there. So it's all sorts, not just the hot dog
Yeah,
eating contest.
but you can't. Can you only do one? You would think that your stomach
Probably
might
do
explode.
multiple there, yeah.
But Chestnut, he just sticks with the dogs?
He just sticks with the dogs on.
Hey,
on-
how
on
many
July
times has he
4th there.
won?
I think he had like a 13-year streak
He's like
with
Raphael
Kobayashi.
in the French Open,
Yeah, and
Nadal.
yeah, he was going up against Kobayashi, and back and forth with that rivalry there. But I will say Joey has, I don't know, 68 hot dogs.
Is that what how many he ate?
That's my guess.
Does Vegas put a line on that? Do they get?
I think there might be a line there.
Probably
Yeah,
gotta
there's a
be.
line for everything.
What's the over/under
yeah.
for Joey Chestnut's hot dog total? Anyway, we're out of time, so you're gonna play trivia tonight?
That's my plan.
Sounds good. Well, listen, special thanks to Sean and Jordan for all their fine work, out of sight, but not out of mind. And stay tuned for trivia in just about 15 minutes. Corey Smith, I'm Jeff Cook. See you next Tuesday and every Tuesday here on Sports Chat. Good night, everybody. I guess I should have hit the Patreon banner.
Is just $20 at the gate, and it's free for spectators. Expect to see cars, trucks, big rigs, kid power wheels, anything with wheels and an engine.